Broadcasting from Park Avenue West, you're watching WMFD Television, Channel 68.
Maybe an hour after we got the message that we lost Danny, Danny's sister said to us, we were all crying, and she says, "What do we do? What do we tell people?" And I'm like, "Baby, we got to tell them the truth. This is nothing that can be hidden, because otherwise the suicide will win."
We're not mental health professionals. It's just something that happened to our family. We direct people other places. And most important of all, I think, don't quit. Keep fighting. Keep living. Things will get better.
Happy Monday, and we are at the tail end of Mental Health Month, and I want to welcome you to Sparking the Conversation. We're Jeff and Donna Heck with 33 Forever, and we are so excited to be able to bring you weekly half-hour messages, stories, and resources surrounding mental health topics and challenges. Now, our show's purpose and hope is to provide you with both information and inspiration, making conversations about mental health the norm.
Amanda Lucas is the Executive Director of Clinical Operations at the Ohio State University Neurological Institute, and she's the Executive Director of OSU's Harding Hospital. She oversees all the clinical operations and aspects of the hospitals at Ohio State, and she also handles the associated ambulatory clinics. She was previously in leadership roles at Nationwide Children's Hospital and the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, working particularly in children's behavioral health. She holds a bachelor's degree in psychology and master's degrees in both counseling education and business administration. And her leadership at Ohio State is a huge part of the amazing behavioral health and psychiatry team at OSU. And she's become a valued friend of 33 Forever. Amanda, welcome, and we're glad to have you here.
Well, Jeff and Donna, thank you for having me, and thank you for having the courage to share your story about Danny. And for all the celebration about Mental Health Awareness Month, and what a gift to give back to people to share a message every week.
Thank you. We were so glad to have you on at the very end of this month just to talk a little bit more about mental health. And our memory moment is a very inspirational, important aspect to what we have been able to accomplish partnering with Ohio State, and we're just very grateful for you.
Well, we are very grateful for your partnership and for your commitment to our behavioral health immediate care and the great work we're doing. And I hope to share a little bit of that today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that here in a minute, but you wear a lot of hats down at Ohio State. You run the clinical programming at 4 different hospitals. Mm-hmm. And why don't you kind of tell our audience a little bit, especially as it relates to behavioral health, why don't you talk about those and what they really are?
Sure. So my job encompasses what's called the Neurological Institute. So it's kind of all things brain. And part of that, a big part of that, is behavioral health and what happens to the brain in reaction to different stressors, what happens when somebody uses a substance and addiction. And so it's been really nice to take a large part of my career from when I practiced clinically and also look at this other side that's more what happens to the neurology aspects, what can neurosurgeons do. And there's such an interface because behavioral health is such a strong point in many people's journey, regardless of what illness they're suffering from.
And you talk about the brain and the behavioral health, the spine. Jeff had surgery at Ohio State, mm-hmm. and you're right. There's so much about the brain and all that works together. Mm-hmm. And Ohio State's a leading player in the mental health research and trying to help find answers for those who are struggling.
Yeah, absolutely. And Harding Hospital just celebrated its 105th year this year. Wow. And so Harding Hospital was actually one of the first psychiatric hospitals in Ohio established by the Harding family. So I'm very honored to run that organization now at Ohio State's campus for the past 20-some years. And what a legacy, and a legacy that just continues to provide excellence in behavioral health care and addiction care to those who need help.
I think your point about the longevity of that institution, Harding Hospital, because it was originally a private psychiatric hospital, I think, wasn't it? And then Ohio State took it over or took on the name at some point, and it actually changed locations. So that's something I still find is when people hear about Harding Hospital, they still think about the old psychiatric hospital in Worthington. But you're on the campus now. You're in the medical complex.
Right. We're right on the campus at the medical center, right behind the James, and right around the corner from University Hospital, and very much a part of that atmosphere and supported by the system, both through the College of Medicine and the medical center and the university proper.
Let's talk a little bit, if we can, about what that really looks like from the behavioral health aspect of things, and talk a little bit, if you would, about all the different services that are there, because I think that's really important for our audience to understand.
Until we were associated with you, I don't believe we realized everything that you have.
The extent of it, right?
Right. So behavioral health has this continuum of care, and I always describe it sort of like a pyramid. The most acute services are at the top, and that's typically our inpatient programs. And so we have 84 beds for adult psychiatric inpatient care, and we have 25 beds for detox at Talbot Hospital, which is at OSU Hospital East. And then within that behavioral health continuum, both programs have partial hospitalization programs where folks come 5 days a week as they're stepping down from inpatient. We have intensive outpatient programs for folks who are stepping down to 3 days a week care. We have ambulatory care, both at Harding Hospital proper and now at our new ambulatory sites in New Albany and soon to be in Dublin and in the Upper Arlington area we have. And then we also have our psychiatric emergency services that serve those that come into the hospital's emergency room with a myriad of behavioral health and addiction problems. We have our consult liaison team that goes to all 1,400 beds across the health system and provides consultation to those who have a medical illness combined with some sort of comorbid psychiatric or addiction issue. And then we have our the behavioral health immediate care, which is one of our newer programs.
Well, we're going to take a break right now, but when we get back, let's talk a little bit more about the Behavioral Health Immediate Care Clinic. So stay with us. We'll be back with Sparking the Conversation in a minute.
Welcome back to Sparking the Conversation. We're here with Amanda Lucas from Ohio State's Harding Hospital, and we're talking about the programming that Ohio State has in the mental and behavioral health areas. And the one thing we were talking about as we went off and we wanted to explore a little bit more is the Behavioral Health Immediate Care Clinic. That's a program that OSU started actually in the midst of the pandemic.
Right. So Dr. Fawn, who's the chair of the department, and I had a vision we saw a gap in our care. And we saw that if you had an emergency, you had to come into the front door of the hospital, which is a little bit intimidating for folks who are in need of help. And then you're in an emergency room, and there's people who have really serious things happening there that might be stressful to some folks coming into that environment for care. So we partnered with some of our colleagues and put together a proposal and received some funding through the medical center to put together behavioral health immediate care. And it's really designed to have a place where people can go and as a walk-in alternative to going to the emergency room. Of course, we still want people who present at the hours we don't have BHIC or anytime they have a really imminent crisis to go there, or if they feel like they have some complicated medical condition too. But we also wanted to make sure we had a way to follow up with folks coming out of the hospital. One of the best standards is to see someone within 7 days of discharge from the inpatient unit. And that's usually driven by the people who are typically admitted either have some threat of harm to themselves or some threat of harm to others, and there's some medically necessary reason to keep them in that safe environment for a short period of time. An acute stay is meant to be about 7 days on average. And so we really saw behavioral health immediate care as becoming a gap filler. It really filled a gap of what our care continuum was and provided another level of care for folks. And we did stand that up during the pandemic, and we actually stood it up bravely. And we initially started it as a pandemic way to respond to healthcare professionals who were really stressed in the midst of treating folks with COVID. And so our stress, trauma, and resilience program sort of used that platform to help us sort of catalyze the behavioral health immediate care. That was in April 2020. And then in June, we actually opened it for the purpose it was intended to be. So we took a whim and said, can we use this for a different purpose? And we did. And now we've evolved it to what we wanted it to be, and we continue to scale and grow it.
What's that look like right now?
It's busy. It's open 5 days a week from 11 to 7. We're planning as of the turn of the fiscal year for us to expand that to be at least Saturday hours and then hopefully Sunday hours. So we're continuing to grow. And we're also talking now with other communities and some of the hospitals we're affiliated with through our Ohio State Hospital Network, Health Network to have BHIC be a virtual component for some of those patients in other communities that don't have access to services as readily as they need for their care. Yeah, so it's really meant to be, 30 to 45 days and to fill a gap in that care continuum for folks who maybe are unlinked or had, came off medication, just need a prescription, need someone to talk to until we can get them linked into the community. So it's been a great addition.
You helped the college students pretty much during that time, didn't you, when you first opened up? Because we had talked about sending people down there, and when I called, and the gal that answered was incredible and helpful. And it was a need that we saw even when we lost Danny. When you have an emergency, not life-threatening, and it's, you can get the guts to go then.
Right.
Where if you would have say, wait 3 weeks, it changes everything.
Right. So we're really trying to meet people where they are, and certainly being on a middle of a major campus environment, we see plenty of students.
Absolutely.
And we're glad to serve them and help return them back to their university life with the resources they needed, and so that they can be as successful as they can be.
And we were really fortunate to find that we could help fill that gap a little bit in our very own small way to help with BHIC and support it and get the word out about it. And the thing that really struck me about it was that we know that one of the most vulnerable times for people is when they're coming out of that hospital, as you said before. And really, sometimes those first 7 days or now, especially post-pandemic where the mental health system is so stressed, we know that the lag times to get into a provider can be long. And so it made so much sense to us. So we're really glad that it's going well, and your patient counts are up, I'm assuming, and things are continuing to grow.
They are. We have good problems now. We're filling our templates and trying to recruit more staff and have more faculty time. And we're very blessed to have folks like you who support that cause. And we really just love the Danny welcome room, and what a nice way to say to folks, this is a safe place and we're glad you're here. So thank you for your generosity and support.
Thank you. Well, there's a need, and you guys, again, are the start of it. We were talking at the break. What is the criteria for you to determine whether somebody needs inpatient versus partial hospitalization, intensive outpatient care? How do physicians determine that?
It's usually by the acuity and the severity and, how much the symptoms are impacting someone's daily life. I haven't practiced clinically in a long time, and so I'll leave that good work to the clinicians that work around me. But I think that our team does a really good job of assessing where someone's at, what would be helpful to them. And so, if they have some immediate threat to themselves or someone, we want to make sure we get them into the hospital. If they're sort of just having a bad day, we want to be able to discharge them with a plan for what they're going to do when they go home. The levels in between, we have lots of options. We have something that's just a step under the hospital called partial hospital. That's 5 days a week, probably 5-6 hours a day. It's a big commitment. And then we have an intensive outpatient program that's like 3 hours a day, 3 days a week. All of those have social workers, psychiatrists, a nursing team, sometimes a psychologist attached to them. And we want to make sure that we get folks to the right place at the right time.
So what I love about that description is, as you said before, and you use these words, but trying to meet people where they are in their particular journey and their particular need for medical care. We've got to take another break. We're going to be back in just a minute with Amanda Lucas from Ohio State here on Sparking the Conversation.
Welcome back to Sparking the Conversation. We are enjoying our conversation with Amanda Lucas, Executive Director of Hardin Hospital. What have you had to do at Hardin Hospital in Ohio State in order to adapt to COVID these past couple of years?
We've done so much. There's probably not enough time. But, probably the biggest thing we did is we really pivoted to a very virtual platform. Initially providing care through phones, and then working across our system to figure out what was the right, telehealth platform to use, and really converted almost 90% of our business to be virtual, particularly in the ambulatory setting. But even in that virtual, we were able, when it was, there just was so many unknowns with COVID, to provide people to be able to visit their loved ones through the devices, the tablets we have on the inpatient unit. Or if our social workers had to do a family session, they could sort of beam into the session and we would provide that technology.
It's really changed the whole landscape, I think, of medicine in general, but mental health care and behavioral health care in particular, because so many people sometimes they feel way more comfortable doing it on a virtual setting or not having to go into that physical place where they may have a feeling about how if I go in there, that's not a good thing. So,
yeah, I think that virtual health opens a whole new opportunity for people to access behavioral health care and even addiction care. If you have the courage to make the call.
Yep, and we have the number on the screen right now.
That really takes you one step closer to saying, can I plan a video visit? Can I do a video intake? There's times where a clinician might say, I really do need to see you in person. But that's a great option, and it has broken down so many barriers and has really helped folks overcome some stigma about accessing care. And that's, a really big goal of ours is we really want folks to reach out and ask for that care and know where to find high quality care so that they can get some help for themselves or for those they love.
Well, I think one of the messages that you got across earlier was that Ohio State has that whole continuum, as you said, continuum of care. So from the most serious, the most direct inpatient, that all the way down to counseling and in the remote locations. So people have all kinds of options, and Ohio State can kind of be that one-stop shop for mental and behavioral health, right?
Absolutely. And, the care keeps evolving. We have technology now that helps through care. We have, medicines that were used for other things like ketamine infusions and now esketamine for folks who have chronic suicidal behavior. So there's just so many options that I think, everybody thinks that you come in and you sit on the couch and you talk to your psychiatrist, and it's really evolved. And I'd really encourage folks, if you're suffering, please reach out for help.
Yeah, and anybody in our area, if you do not want to make the drive to Ohio State, but you want Ohio State's care, 614-293-9600 is the number, and call them for help.
At any one of those levels that we talked about,
yeah, absolutely.
That's the entree into the system, right?
Right.
And we only have a little bit of time left, but we always talk about hope. Can you share some hope for our audience?
Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of hope. Care is accessible, care is available, and care can help. And the most important thing you can do for yourself or for someone you love is just call. Make the call and help guide people to that care. It's right there. Just a phone call away.
Well, we got the world-renowned experts in our backyard, 60 miles away, and in our region, which covers all over the place. So, Amanda, Lucas, thank you for being with us tonight. Ohio State Harding Hospital, an important asset, a huge resource here in our region, and we'll be back in a minute
with our memory moment. And we're going to have Amanda stay with us for that. So stay tuned, and more Sparking the Conversation. Welcome again to Sparking the Conversation's Memory Moment. Today, for our memory moment, where we share either a little bit about Danny or about 33 Forever, we decided, since Amanda Lucas with Hardin Hospital was here today, we would talk about a room that we have at Ohio State Hardin Hospital can I say Ohio State before that? I mean, I know it's all in.
You can.
This has been a tremendous gift, and we did talk about it on social media, but we were blessed and honored to have a room named, it's called the 33 Forever Welcome Room in memory of Danielle Leedy, and it's got the sign over on that side and a story about her, a quote from her sister, and then all of us cutting the ribbon.
And I think the thing that's really special about this room is it was made possible really because of you who support us and who supported 33 Forever really since its inception. We were able to establish an endowment down at Ohio State in the psychiatry and mental and behavioral health department to make this possible. And we now have this, as we talked about during the show, a tremendous partnership with Ohio State, and we appreciate their expertise and all that they add to our state and to our region. Very important provider.
Absolutely. And it's touching again that we have Danielle there because it's just, again, a memory for us, and it will help everything that Ohio State is doing to help the community and the behavioral health struggles that people have. So,
and it's part of that continuum of care that we talked about a little bit ago with Amanda. So it's a great option for us to be able to support, and hopefully it's helping Ohio State out, and hopefully it's helping our greater community and to improve the mental health and the behavioral health of the citizens of Ohio. Really, that's what it's for.
It is.
So anyway, thank you for joining us again tonight on Sparking the Conversation. We look forward to having you join us again next week when we have a great guest right here on WMFD.